#1 live show in the world, West Coast Poplock Podcast. Coming to you from Big Studios in Compton, California. Featuring radio personality Super Steve Flores. Comedian extraordinaire, that dude Johnny C. And Mr. I'll Do Anything for a Buck, Mario 81. So throw your dubs in the air and let's get ready to pop up.
What is up? It's the #1 live Tuesday night show on a Monday night. It's the West Coast Poplock Podcast.
That's us.
Episode number 76.
You got a lot of qualifiers in there, dude.
With a special guest, my man. We've been wanting this guy for a minute, and I finally reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, you should have hit me up a long time ago." Fuck yeah.
All right.
I've been asking Steve. You don't even, like, this has been my Christmas wish list since we started this. Like, bro, we need to get lightning in here.
Dude, you're setting me up for failure right here. There's no way I can be this good.
Everybody, lightning. Jay Tillis, what is up?
Oh, thank you. Very kind, very kind. I appreciate that. All right, I'll see you guys later. That was
That's
good.
it. Yeah, we're done. That was it. Thank you. On a Monday night, it's over. Nah, Jay, shit. You took K-Rock from, I don't even know what number they started at before you became the producer. Like
I joined
15?
it at, we were 22nd in the ratings.
22nd.
Yeah.
22nd out of how many stations are there?
There's like 30.
Hey, though, he took him to #1
Yeah.
with work ethic. I mean, this guy doesn't stop working, dude. Back in the day when he's there at 5 and I'm leaving and shit, and he's there till like 8, 7 o'clock at night, man. And that's what took K-Rock to #1.
Yeah. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Knowing you and just like the work ethic, you had your hand in everything that was going on in that morning show, whether it was helping me out with my bits for the whole enchilada, whether you were cutting shit for the next day, whether you were looking up what's hot, what's not. I remember you would hit the guys up like 11 o'clock at night. Oh, this shit's hot right now, dude. We have to talk about this tomorrow.
Johnny, can you tell I paid him off $50 to talk?
No, I'm just being real. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have to really understand and know what it takes to be #1, and that's what it takes. Sometimes sacrificing more than you even realize that you're sacrificing. And yeah, dude, that's how you fucking became #1. Dude.
We've had a lot of stories, but why does my mic sound so weenie? You know,
but you've had the weenie voice all your life.
On my rider, I said I only speak into RE20s. And what is this thing right here? You got a Sennheiser's.
We're talking.
I'm so sorry.
More tech talk. These guys are.
Let me tell you, before we start, these fucking nerds are back here tech talking about Mario.
I'm not kosher with this compression in your limiter. No, you're squashing us too much.
Too much.
I don't know any of these words mean.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know what a limiter is.
So like. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories. What do you guys want to start? I mean,
you know what? I've always wanted to know, like, this is the one thing. When I was going to radio school, it was always hard to try to figure out what your name's going to be. Oh, and then the guy would always be, oh, you need 2 first names. You know,
John
Michael.
No, the people that make up their own names, that's BS. You're never supposed to make up your own name. It has to be given to you. All the names at K-Rock were all handed out. And most of them were like, guys weren't cool with them at first. Some were.
That's the best kind of nickname.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
when you're mad about it at first. Like, man, I don't want to be called that.
And my name changed a couple times because guys were screwing with me so much, you know?
Well, here's the thing with me. When you hit us up, I was going to Boiler Room with Chuck to go work. We had met, years before. Like,
do you listeners know who Chuck is?
Yes. Yeah, we've talked about him a couple times.
Or viewers, I guess. Hi, everyone.
A little bit of viewers, listeners. And so what I remember is you're like, hey, we're going to interview you tomorrow for the job. Come in at fucking 5 a.m., blah, blah, blah. And when he opens the door to introduce me to Kevin and Bean, he says, Super Steve. I fucking never heard that name before. That was like it. But like I tell people, it could have been Stupid Steve, Fat Steve, Dumb Steve, But it was just like fucking like I was like, God damn,
Stupid
that's
Steve
fucking...
is my favorite.
Nah, but like it all made sense when we met. We met upstairs at that Boiler Room office, right? And you guys were doing graphics and stuff for some magazine I was trying to float. I was Mr. Entrepreneur for a while, and you had your hair kind of teased out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I remember we left there. Maybe it was the first or second meeting. It was like a Saturday maybe, and we went somewhere to eat. And you were making some crazy concoction. You had pancakes and a burger. And I'm like,
no, we were doing that for Cali's Best.
Was it Cali's Best?
Yeah. It was part of that magazine.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
thing that we were doing.
Yeah, we were trying to launch a magazine called Cali, Johnny.
Yeah.
So, like, this was going to be, if you took, like, Los Angeles magazine and then married it with, like Thrasher.
Sure.
So it was going to be, like, on one page, we talked to, like, a 27-year-old stockbroker in West L.A., and the next page is, where to buy weed.
Sure.
Like it was going to be a really all about Southern California culture, and no one had done it.
No.
And so we got the name trademarked and all that stuff. And this, by the way, before everyone saw everyone had a Cali shirt. Like that was, I missed that. Like that sucked. But anyway, we were developing this little magazine, and Chuck had done work on mags, and Steve had done work on mags, and I found myself by our friend Rodney, who you guys interviewed, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we're hanging out doing. We're like, let's go down and get some food. We've been doing graphics all day, and we go to this restaurant. I was like a Denny's or something, and we thought one of our segments is going to be Cali's Best burrito, burger, whatever, pizza.
Sure.
And so we're in the spot, and then Steve was going to be in charge of that segment in the magazine, and he do you play a bed under everything?
I'm sorry.
The music. Do you roll a bed
Oh
under
yeah,
everything?
yeah.
It's like I can't. I'm like, wow, it's a trip. I'm like, it's the longest music bed I've ever heard. So it's like I feel like I'm on Power 106. 106. So anyway, so we're eating, and Steve, somehow it comes up like, Steve, why don't you just mash it all together? I don't know why he did, but he's like, okay, and he puts
We
his
took
burger.
photos. I remember taking photos. And there
this
was
whole
like
thing.
pancakes, burger, fucking cheese sticks. Denny's, they have this.
So it's like the Jack in the Box late night menu.
Yeah,
Kind of,
yeah.
but he made
Before.
it. Yeah, but he made it. We were photographing it, and he was going to go back and write about it for what
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Cali's Best was like the best burgers, the best whatever, the best lap dance, the best whatever it was.
So during this conversation, we're getting to know each other, which is what you do over, grubbing up, and he, we find at some point Chuck or you said, I had a fro at one point, and it just all came to me, and it's like you were the perfect character, because Kevin and Bean on K-Rock LA were just two dudes from Arizona. They weren't square. Well, yeah, they were. Like, I feel like an old white dude, they're square, but they were, and they needed flavor. They had previously worked with Michael, the maintenance man, who was black dude, who was the actual maintenance man at the building that we were in at 3500 West Olive in Burbank. And he was amazing and super colorful, but he sued him and bailed, and, we didn't have any Michael anymore. So we'd gone this really long period, like 8-10 years, without this colorful character, and you walked into my life. Yeah. And I'm like, I went into Kevin and Bean afterwards and said, I have this guy. I got this 300-pound Hispanic dude, and he's got an afro and a cape, and like he's a superhero. And they're like, why isn't he standing right here right now? Like, why are you telling us about it? Like, this is too good to be true. And they totally thought I was BSing. Yeah. So I called you up and I said, you got to do whatever your hair. And you had just cut your hair. He had just cut his hair. And I'm like, oh no, like, what do we do? Get as a wig? He's like, no, tease it out. So he did his best, and he made kind of a fro out of it. And it was still short, but it did the trick. Yeah. And he rolls in, and he's got his double S logo on his chest and the cape and the whole nine. Like, did your sister put that together?
Yeah.
So he rolls in, and they're like, hired. Like, they're like done. Like,
the next day, I went to Long Beach to look for Little People.
I remember listening to that on the fucking radio.
And it was so crazy because at the time, I didn't know the power of K-Rock.
Yeah.
And when I'm out there, cars just start coming out of nowhere like, hey, what's up, Super Steve? We're fucking listening to you. And I was like, holy shit. What the fuck is going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, when it gets really freaky is when cars roll by and then you hear yourself coming out of a car stereo in real time. You're like, what kind of weird walkie-talkie is this?
No, it's crazy.
And so, Steve went down to, there's a spot in Long Beach over by the golf course. I forget what it's called, but they made these houses like really weird proportions. So the doors were really, really tall, like insanely tall for whatever reason in this housing tract. And so you'd roll by and you'd watch people go in, at night when they're, park their car and they walk in, and they all look like little people because the doors are so friggin' tall. Yeah. And they're normal sized houses, but whatever. And it just became this thing where people thought this was a little person community. And it was like this mystery. Everyone knew where this little section of Long Beach was. But it's like, I don't know. we sent you down there to
Yeah,
go
it was
try to
on
find a
live.
little
And
person,
I had
whatever.
a bullhorn, and we were doing, all kinds of, yell this out, do this, do that. And I was like, well, whatever, hitting the bullhorn.
And then but that was successful, and it spun into a bunch of other stuff, and you were always on the street giving stuff away. It worked. You were the right person to the right job at the right time, And then at some point, it morphed into the whole enchilada, which is just you covering like current events topics, but asking people on the street, kind of like no different than what Jimmy Come Alive does today, and Letterman did back in the day. Was our
but I was
spin
specific to Latinos and to Mexican people,
for sure.
like gangsters. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like people that are gonna come off with some crazy ass.
To say some wild shit.
Yeah, say some wild ass shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was dope.
But
man.
it rang true, and it's
Oh, it
funny
did.
because the audience at that point, they respected it. They loved it. It just sounded like L.A.
Yeah.
No,
it did. And the one thing I did remember too about that time was that I did one called "How to Pick Up on Latin Women," and there was a lot of jokes in there. Hey, I'm a good babysitter, blah blah blah, whatever.
Sure.
And then I know people were starting to call, oh, that's fucked up, you're talking shit. And I would get on the phone with them and be like, yo, look it. On this show, we talk shit about everybody.
Yeah.
You think it's funny with everyone else, but as soon as it hits you, you're like, oh, and they're like, oh, you're right.
Sure.
And, so we won everyone over, I think, in two ways. Because, A, there was someone on the street and someone that was talking to them that was exactly like them. So they sort of like accepted that. And two, Kevin and Bean made fun of themselves more than anyone else. So, it was that like accepting like, oh, they talk smack on everybody and themselves. So it's just in fun.
Although we pissed off a lot of people.
Oh,
We
no,
had
for
you
sure.
gotta piss
for
off.
sure.
Asian Americans went after us. Fat women went after us. Like it was all these, all these people went after us, and it was in that time in the '90s, when you could do it.
Girls Gone Wild time.
It was all that
what
stuff.
I mean?
You could definitely do it. It was Korn and Limp Bizkit and whatnot, and and Lake Havasu and all these things were, and South.
There was no
Cosmo
internet.
I mean,
Yeah, I know,
there
wasn't.
was no internet.
it was pre-internet, but I think even if there was internet back then, it still would have happened.
Yeah.
We were just, it was a rebellion from the '80s.
Sure.
I think, but so Steve comes in and crushes it, and you did it for a bunch of years,
Yeah,
right?
quite a few years there.
And then you end
And
up,
then Lightning fired me, so whatever.
yeah, no, I didn't.
But you
fire
know what though? To me, I think that's something we talked about earlier. Is like, shit ends, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it is.
Well,
what
we
it is.
did. I think we covered every topic that whole
Yeah.
enchilada could cover.
No, exactly.
And
It
then
ran its course.
we started regurgitating a few, and like, let's just rest it. But by that time, you had a gig and promotions, and you were doing.
And I was
stuff.
also doing overnights and shit. So,
Exactly. Yeah, you were on the air and whatnot.
moved
So,
on, so.
yeah, you grew.
But it was fucking awesome.
I always thought you represented that because there was always, even when K-Rock was at its heights, there was like this underrepresented Mexican girl listening to the Darks. The late night K-Rock crew that was not properly represented on
It's true.
mainstream K-Rock.
Well, look what K-Rock came out of. By the way, on this West Coast Pop Lock podcast, how much do the listeners that are in? You got guys in New Jersey listening and watching
Sure.
and stuff like that. Like, how much of K-Rock do they know?
Not sure.
I'm not sure.
It goes back and forth.
we've
Like-
talked
like-
about some stuff. And
Yeah,
and they know
so
some.
so you guys on the East Coast, it was WXRK, which is where Stern was and all that stuff, but nothing was ever as big as KROQ in Los Angeles. And
Right.
that's not like we're not being arrogant when we say that, like, it just is.
Yeah.
You could just look at the bands that would fly from England directly into LA and go right to K-Rock. David Bowie, for example, the first time he was in LA, he slept on Rodney Bingenheimer's couch. So there was all these, David, Gahan, Depeche Mode, they come to K-Rock and then they do everybody else.
Sure.
You could just, and the station took a lot of chances in the 80s and the 90s and stuff. And it was kind of like, I don't know. We made a film about it, which we can talk about later, that hopefully is coming out soon. It was just financed.
Fuck
Oh,
yeah.
Let's circle back on that
Yeah,
later.
okay, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So, it was just, it was the 90s were a really cool time. And it's funny, you started off this show talking about the fact that I worked too much. And that's true because I worked so much through the 90s. I started in June of 91. So I was 20 when I started, and I turned
Holy
21 at the
shit.
radio station. Yeah. And I didn't know what I was a part of. When I joined, like I said, we were 20-something in the ratings. We were behind all the, even we were below KCRW, which is the NPR station in town. You know what I mean? Like there were jazz stations ranking better than K-Rock. And so we just slugged it out forever. And there were some times occasionally where I'd find my self on stage, like at Irvine Meadows, ladies and gentlemen, Candlebox! I'm like, oh, I made it. I introduced Candlebox.
Yeah, I remember those days.
It's like, there were some moments where I go, oh, like, damn, like standing in front of 60,000 people. I'll never forget. I grew up going to Supercross and Monster Jam. I'm white, right?
Yeah.
So I go to like off-road stuff, and I'm from Orange County originally. And so I'm at Supercross. McGrath had done, this is his, I think, 4th or 5th year of sweeping Supercross, like the entire series. It's the season opener at Anaheim Stadium, and I'm the guest that welcomes everyone on the microphone. Damn. And they hand me the mic, and I'm like, I'm looking up at Anaheim Stadium. And at that point, it was still, I think, I can't remember if it was still like all the way around, because Anaheim Stadium didn't, there wasn't that portion where the rocks are now, but it used to be all the way around. I think it was at that time, right? Like when the Rams played way back in the day. I can't remember. And it doesn't matter. I'm standing there with a microphone. I'm like, oh my God. Like, why am I here?
I made it. I'm in Supercross.
It wasn't like on the radio where people are like, oh, I listened to you on the radio.
Sure.
It was when I had that, like, come to Jesus moment, like, I'm in my hometown talking to 60,000 people. It was totally sold out, or whatever the number is, at Anaheim Stadium. And that was one of those moments I'll never forget. And then, like a jackass, I go, Anaheim Stadium, Anaheim Stadium, Anaheim, and it's reverberating, and now I can't hear myself anymore. It's like it's coming back to me like a full second later, and now it freaks me out because I don't have headphones on. Like the pros always have headphones, so they can't hear the echo. And now I'm hearing me full volume like a second later, and I go, "This is really weird. This is really weird." Like now I'm talking like I'm just a jackass because it's coming back. Now I'm like totally screwed up the head because in radio like we're doing now, we all have headphones.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And I'm thinking to myself in real time, I'm blowing this. I'm in front of my hometown crowd, and I'm just a goofball because I can't get over this echo.
I'm ruining Supercross.
Dude, it was
The one thing I love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All I want to do is do good at Supercross, man.
Oh, it's like I've been waiting for this.
Jerry McGrath is laughing at me right now. Like, what is going on?
Like I got a pair of limited edition Vans. I've been waiting them for like some collabo Vans, and I get them in the first day, and then I pee on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, you stepped in dog shit.
Exactly.
Oh.
I just ruined it. I think it was okay. I think no one came afterwards and was like, "Oh, lightning, you screwed it up." Like it was all right. I saved it, but there were so many moments where it's so funny because the DJs didn't really like doing on stages. Whether it was Limp Bizkit or Korn or Depeche Mode or whoever, there was a jock. Like part of the deal when we would give away tickets and K-Rock would be out at the concert, we would have the van sitting out front, sitting in the red zone, no parking zone, and it would be out there, and we'd be handing out freebies. Then inside, it was our deal with the promoter, right? Johnny, you've been on all these shows, like inside. We would have to do the official entrance, like in 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, whoever the band is, Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah. We'd be like, thanks for everyone coming, that type of thing. And the jocks would just get tired of it. They didn't want to go to these and do like you guys would all jump at a heartbeat. Like, sure. I'm gonna go, bring out.
I did a few because a lot of people were like, nah.
I'm gonna bring up Social Distortion. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, like I'm going to be on this stage and introduce my heroes, right? But a lot of the jocks are like, I'm busy that night.
I did 7 nights of Social Distortion in Hollywood, dude. Right? I was like, okay, I'm fucking down. I did Ozfest.
Yeah.
Everybody at Ozfest.
Yeah.
And I was like, who doesn't want to come out here and do this? This is fucking rad.
It's insane. But you know what? They just did it for 20 years. Yeah. Some of these jocks are like, I'm over it. And so I would end up doing a lot of these things. And yeah, you'd have these like out-of-body experiences doing these on stages where you're like, in 5 minutes, whatever the band is. I did have an awful one at Tori Amos. I talked too long. And one of the guy in the front seat's like, get off. I'm like, goodbye.
I would always do it like short and sweet.
Yeah, I learned
that.
What's
up? Super Steve from K-Rock coming up. And I would say the name.
I had already done 50 of them by the time someone says, dude, say K-Rock at the end. So don't say who you are. Just go up there, welcome the crowd. Just be an anonymous person, right? Because half the crowd may or may not know who you are. And then at the very end, go like, Stone Temple Pilots, I'm Lightning from K-Rock. And then you're gone, right? So they're like, it's too. They're already clapping for the band, right? And they're like, oh, whoever this guy is, I don't care.
I
But
did
if
the
you say
opposite.
If you
As
say it
opposed
up
to go, I'm
front,
waiting for K-Rock. They're like, boo.
yeah. If you say it up front, you're hammered because there's always some heckler in the front, right?
Well, that's why I would do it like, yo, what's up, Super C with the world famous K-Rock coming up, so and they're like, they want to start booing, but they're like, oh shit, yeah, fuck yeah.
You make it so quick, yeah.
Because they believe that they're about to walk out.
Yeah.
And then you walk off and it's another fucking like 8 minutes or 9.
Oh, well,
like,
and
what
the bands, there were a lot of bands that wanted a real big gap. Like they didn't want to be, and the reason is a-holes like me. I wasn't as bad, but I have been, so like flash forward to 2014, I don't know, I went and like headed up the digital department at K-Rock, and then we got engulfed into CBS radio, and then I became part of the national events team and stuff, so I found myself at all of these events all over the country hosted by radio stations, our company, CBS. And so many of the DJs would do these insanely long 6-minute things on stage where they're bringing up, here's the girl that does the traffic report, and then here's this guy. And remember that? And you're thinking the band is backstage listening to all this going,
What the fuck?
Oh, my God, get this dude off my stage. So a lot of times they in the contract, they're like, he'll go up. That's fine. As part of our contract, he can go say hi to the crowd. He's got to do it 10 minutes in advance. So the crowd is like, it's like disassociated, right? Because there's so many.
They get that taste out of their mouth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm not mad at him for it.
No, yeah. He
A lot
wants to
of us
know
are
the
bad.
fucking, here's the fucking traffic dude. You're like, oh, fuck. We don't even listen.
Do you remember that guy who called in that one time? This is him.
Well, and a lot of times, and every DJ thinks that they're personal with the artist.
Oh, yeah.
Every single
That's my homie.
DJ thinks, we've been playing this band, and he was over at my house for dinner. Like, no, he wasn't, But it's always got to be me, I, this, me, we.
Nah,
Like,
for
no.
me, it was just my name, K-Rock, and the band.
Yeah,
Right.
well, that was good.
Boom.
You're smart. Yeah.
Done.
That's it. I don't want to get booed, bro.
Yeah.
That shit hurts. Hurts my feelings.
Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts.
I got the only time was because I took too long.
Yeah.
It was at an AFI in San Bernardino, and those people were
Oh,
like,
dude.
they were all, hey,
That's it.
they were already hating on us when we pulled up in the K-Rock band.
These poor people live in San Bernardino, man.
And I
They're
was
already
like, oh,
No, they're good at
shit.
hating.
Yeah, they're
they're good at
already
hating.
angry.
And I was like,
man.
fuck, dude. And they're like, oh, yeah, I could go up. And I was like, oh, shit. And I went up there and I heard some booze and I was like, AFI. AFI, motherfuckers.
AFI.
But then enjoyed the show. You know what I
I've
mean?
been asked personally by Davey Havoc to come up
Yeah,
here.
he's my homie.
So stop booing me.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck
don't
you.
fucking
You'd
boo
be
me.
surprised. There are guys that would say that. Like, oh, God.
If you don't stop booing me, I'm going to fucking stage dive.
I'm coming.
Yeah,
I'm coming right now.
Because the problem is, I'm the guy who will, like, if I see the guy who's booing or heckling, I'll find a way to go find him later and go, dude, I'm sorry. I screwed up. I should have been shorter. Like, I want to apologize to dude the heckler. I just,
Sure.
I don't want any bad
You were
bad
unsatisfied.
mojo.
I would like to.
Yeah, I
fix
feel
that
bad
for you.
because I'm like, I don't want to do a disservice to the radio station. Like, I love that place,
No, I know you do. Here's a question: why K-Rock and why a producer? How did that come about?
It was not on purpose. So I was going to Rancho Santiago College in Santa Ana, and I thought I was going to go into like real estate. I was working at a car stereo shop. I loved audio. Like I just loved audio, which is my jokes around, about your compression and whatnot here.
I took it off, by the way. No, I took them all off right now.
No, that's all good. It's all good. I can hear it. It's better.
Oh, shoot.
And so I was big into this.
You
stuff,
can send
right?
them pointers later on the email. Hey, bro, this is what you need to do.
You know what? Some life critique. It's okay. It hurts.
It's all right, but I mean, listen, I can't really hear too well because of these Marshall headphones. I'm used to Sony NVR 7506.
That's what we're gonna have in here next week.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
we're
you
gonna have
just-
more.
Don't you fucking worry. We're gonna have some of those.
Nah, I know. I know where to hit him. You know what I mean? I know where it hurts.
Exactly. That you know how to stab him. You know how.
That's exactly. Now it's a cool studio. No, you've done a really nice job. I'm just giving you a hard time. What were we talking about?
Why you started? How?
Oh,
how-
why
how- how-
producer?
Oh yeah. So
You're
I
in college in Santa Ana.
yeah. So I was taking some business classes and I was just floating through life. I was working at a car stereo shop and a surf shop at the same time and but I really loved audio. I thought I wanted to be like I was either going to go real estate or I was going to be a Foley artist. Do you know what a Foley artist?
Sure.
The guy that clicks two coconuts together, like a horse hoof, or like whatever. Yeah, you've seen. Remember what? Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We just click it now. Forget it. That old reference. Yeah. Anyway, you make up like you crack celery and it sounds like a punch.
Did you have an idea how to do that? Did you have any idea how to?
I had recording equipment and I really liked that stuff.
So,
this is not a joke.
No.
I thought it was a joke for a second.
I didn't think it was a joke.
No, like literally, like when they do bones breaking in movies, it's celery.
Yeah.
They go, and they break celery on a microphone. They distort it. It sounds like a bone break.
That used to be my favorite part of the Universal Studios backlot tour. They would take you on the stage and show you how like Foley artists work.
And they'd slap sandbags and do all this weird stuff. Like, I mean, I think you know about like the laser guns in Star Wars, right? No?
I'm about to know.
How do you not know that? Dude, one of the Foley artists in 1973 or whatever they were making the movie was he crawled up a guy wire like on a telephone pole, and he took a wrench and he hit the wire, the high voltage wire, and it went boom with a wrench, a wire, like 30 feet up, boo, and he distorted, and that became the laser sound effect in all the Star Wars. That's
fucking cool.
It was that wire.
Hell yeah.
Who would have known?
You're out there making sounds.
Yeah, there's video. Like if you Google it, you'll find it. But anyway, so I'm in one of my classes in like this general entertainment class. It's just about learning about movies and film and radio, whatever. And the teacher passed out these forms one day and said, "Hey, these radio stations are looking for interns. If you guys like audio, KLOS and Pirate Radio, they're looking for interns."
Hell yeah.
And I go, "Oh, wow." So I filled one out for KLOS and for Pirate. I didn't get a call from Pirate. Pirate had just launched. And Pirate Radio was like a precursor to Jack FM. They played whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And they were called Pirate Radio because way back in the day, people would have actual pirate radio stations. Our buddy Chuck, do you remember Chuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, he still has a pirate radio station.
Oh, shit.
Radio station, yeah. Anyway, so I thought it'd be cool to go work there, but I listened to K-Rock, but they weren't passing around flyer, things for K-Rock. It wasn't even like I didn't think it was an option. So I applied for K-Rock for KLOS and we had Mark and Brian at the time, and I got a call and I went all the way to Culver City. I got off the freeway and I go, "I don't like Mark and Brian," and I turned right around and got back on the 405 and went all the way home. And my girlfriend at the time, she's like, "Well, that was a waste of time. Like, why don't you just apply at K-Rock? That's the station. That's what we all listen to. Why don't you know?" And at that time, Richard Blade, who was the midday guy or afternoons whenever Richard was on, he had his intern Michelle on the air all the time, and Jed would talk to his phone op, and you could hear people in the background, mumbling, and you knew there was activity in life there. And so I go, okay. So she actually called up, got something faxed to my surf shop. I filled it out, sent it in, but I didn't hear anything for a couple months. And then one day, Mike, the owner of our surf shop, he's like, "Hey, there's a woman from K-Rock on the phone." I'm like, "What?" So I pick it up, and she's like, "Hi, this is Maria. I produce the morning show. Do you want to come in for an interview?" And I go, "Yes." So a week or so later, I drove up to Burbank from Orange. It's like a 49-mile drive. And I'm dressed up in not a suit and a tie, but I have a nice shirt on and a tie and a pair of slacks and nice shoes. And I'm thinking, I'm going for like a business interview, right? Because I'm going it's not a paid job, but it's a job, right? And I walk, and as soon as I walk, first I get to the elevator, and it's on the 9th floor. And I go to push the 9. I realize the 9 button, the clear plexiglass over the 9 had been popped out. Someone took a knife and popped the 9 out because, of course, that's what you do at K-Rock. Right. So I get up to the top, 9th floor, doors open. I look, there's a plaque on the wall, world famous K-Rock. And there's like, it had been bolted to the wall, 4 bolts covered by these like 1-inch pieces of chrome steel to cover the bolts, right? 2 of them had been popped off. Someone was in the process of trying to steal the sign off the wall and couldn't get it off the wall. So I'm like, I'm clearly in the right place, right?
Yeah.
And I walk in, and the girl, she greeted me. I filled out a little paper, and sitting on this tiny little couch, like a love seat, tiny little front office there, and there's 2 dudes all in mascara, black hair, black clothes, and I'm like, I don't fit in. Like, they were there for the same reason I was there, but they were like,
I work at a radio station.
They were all about The Cure, Depeche Mode, New Order. They were
Darks.
I was like, I'm never getting this job. Like,
so you cut your fucking slacks into little cholo shorts.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's no way, like, because I'm a goofball, right? I'm just a dork from Orange County. I'm never going to get this gig. So she calls me in, and I go back all the way in the far corner. And Maria opens the door, come on in. And she's in a pantsuit. And she's like, hi, I'm Maria D'Arcangelo. And, she tells me about herself. She had been hired a few months earlier. She was Michael Ovitz' assistant at CAA. If you're familiar with CAA, okay, right? Michael Ovitz runs entertainment, Yeah. It was like not manager. What would you call him? Agent.
Serious hitter. Yeah.
Agent.
Agent. Yeah.
So they wooed her away. They paid her good money because at that time, apparently, well, I'll get into this. But anyway, so she looks at me, and I'm thinking I'm never getting this job. And she looks at me, and I'm the only clean-cut kid she had interviewed that day.
Yeah.
And so hired me on the spot. And
she came from a different place as well.
different place.
Yeah.
I need some more of me
so
here.
What happened is that Kevin and Bean were hired a year prior, and Laura Brown was their first producer, and it was a woman who wanted to potentially. I think she wanted to be on the air and wanted something different than what management wanted. Management wanted a Rick Dees. Management wanted a Jay. What was the guy back in the day who was on
Jay Thomas?
Jay Thomas on Power 106.
Oh,
or
yeah.
They wanted a Mark and Brian. And in order to do that, they had to have legitimacy. They had to have real A-level guests. They had to have Tom Cruise, Madonna, whoever the guest would be, and they couldn't get anyone. No one, because Kevin and Bean were so low on the ratings, and they were everyone thought that they were Mark and Brian ripoffs, and they weren't, obviously, as we know now. But at the time, no one knew that. And so they brought in this woman who would potentially have this laundry list, this Rolodex. We don't have those anymore, but she had,
All the
spinning wheel of, and she actually did have a Rolodex on her desk, and she would, finger through all these names and stuff, and
they all said no.
And she had like Pamela Cates, on speed dial, and Pamela Cates represented Tom Cruise. Like those are some of the connections. Now we didn't get Tom Cruise until many, many years later. Yeah. But that was the plan. So she was like, I'm here to work. I'm not here to like meet Depeche Mode. Like I'm here to bust ass. Yeah. And she did, and she put it down.
Meet Depeche Mode. I don't give a fuck about Dave Gahan. All right?
Yeah. So like we worked, and so my first couple weeks there, my first week and a half there. This is like June of '91. There was no Kevin and Bean. They were on their there it is, summer vacation tour. So what they would do is they would go on a road and go see the world's largest pecan or whatever the goofball, roadside attraction was, and they would record it on a cassette player, on a Marantz cassette recorder. Ooh. And then they would go to a FedEx was just getting going then. They would go to a FedEx location and they would overnight it back to Mark the Wiffle Boy, and he would take it off the cassette, put it on reel-to-reel, edit it, and then air it as if it were live the next day. That day, there was a lot of production going on. So my first week, I didn't work with Kevin and Bean. They weren't there; they were on the road. Yeah. So they come back off the road, and I'm there at like 4:45 every morning. It's like a Monday morning. They're back in town. Now it gets to like 5:25. They're about to be on the air. A few minutes later, the back door swings open. I look to my right, and there's 2 6'6" bald white guys with cowboy hats on, and I go, "What? What?" And Kevin had gotten drunk and convinced Bean that they were going to buzz their heads when they were in Texas drinking like Fireballs or some crazy kamikaze drinks or whatever. And so I'm sitting down. I'm as low as I am right now. We're in these little like card fold-up tables or whatever, and I'm at this little makeshift table because they didn't have a desk for me. And here comes Bean, all 6'6" of Bean, and he's bald, wearing a cowboy hat. And the dude's, and I look up and I go, I didn't know what to say. He's like, "You're the intern? What's up?" Or whatever they said to me. And I was just petrified. I was like, "Oh my God," because they were just like giant monoliths. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they proceeded to try to fire me for the next 4 years. Yeah. And it was I've said this story a few times, but I didn't understand that when they would say like, "I need something in a minute. I need that newspaper article in a minute." They don't mean like kind of in a minute when you get to it. They mean in 59 seconds because at 60 seconds, we crack the mic open and we start talking about how stupid you are for not understanding that 60 seconds is 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And so it took me years to figure out that pace and all that stuff. But finally, I don't know if I ever licked it, but like,
You got there.
like I think like to what you said earlier, I just outworked everyone. You know, I just was so dedicated to it, and I worked at that same kind of thing all the way through the 90s. Like when, dude, we were on in the height of Limp Bizkit when they did that Rollin' video, that Rollin'. They shot it on, I don't remember if it was the North Tower or the South Tower, but on one of the Twin Towers. That's where it was shot. And it was the weekend prior to the Video Music Awards, MTV VMAs, and we were invited up there by Peter Katz's, their manager, and Fred, and so it was me and Kevin and his he may have been married, and it was my girlfriend at the time, and we were it was Brandy, we were married, and we were up on one of those towers watching this video being shot. So sometimes I see that video like I was standing on that tower watching the cameraman. I'll never
a year
forget.
prior.
What's that?
A year prior to 9/11.
Exactly a year prior on the day.
Yeah.
Is when they shot it.
Oh shit.
And it was really weird. And I had never been to the Twin Towers, much less on the roof. And there was security and all the stuff we had to go through. Because I'll never forget up there, I was hearing a helicopter. I hear, like, my wife and I are going, "Where's the helicopter?" I'm looking around and I couldn't find the helicopter. And she's like, "It's down there." We looked down to see the helicopter. We were above where the helicopters fly. That's how tall those buildings were. It was really bizarre. And I don't remember why I brought up this story, but it's just one of those moments where, I do know. I remember why. Because it was the helicopter thing. I remember that. But like that was the biggest band. When they did that Rollin' video, Limp Bizkit was the biggest band.
I think you talked about
were-
him because the Dungeon podcast is in. And he has a podcast
It's called Chocolate Starfish.
Yeah.
He has a Limp Bizkit
As
podcast.
soon
Chocolate
as
Starfish
you-
and the hot dog flavored water, right?
Hey, as soon as you started talking about it, this guy came in.
from the Dungeon,
nice.
D. Rotten. But
What's up, D? Jersey.
From New Jersey, man. He loves him some Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. Oh, what's up with Zach Rabbit Lopez? Lightning. He came out to see my band at the Pike in Long
No,
Beach.
he went to the Pike. Your band was just playing.
you leave fucking Zach alone, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't come see your band. He went to go get like a beer or something. He went to get something, and there's a band
So
here.
it was weird. Like all through that, even though that happened, and there were so many times like that, like Woodstock. You know, when we were at Woodstock, and there was the fires and the mud throwing and all that stuff, and like it was just all. It was all so hard.
Did
like,
you watch that HBO documentary about the Woodstock '99? It's really good.
No, I was there.
Yeah,
I was there. And
That's
it
why I
was-
was interested in your idea.
It was not fun. And if we did not have, if Moby's management had not saved us, we might not have like got in. Like it was just, that was all a disaster. We stayed one night at a listener's house in some podunk town. There's a whole story there for another podcast, but like it was just, we were just working. And yes, Kevin and Bean had to have fun on the air and had to do their shtick, but like there was so much setup to everything. There was nothing was scripted, but it was just, there was so much setup. And so much work. And so all the 90s go by and it get to 2000, you know, whatever. And we're like, I go, well, I don't know what just happened. There's a decade. I just don't know what happened. And there weren't cell phones. Like there were cell phones. There were flip phones. But they weren't like, now you're taking selfies and all that stuff. And what makes matters worse is that I had a no photograph policy. So when whoever the band would come into the station, the only people that could take photographs, as you'll recall, Steve, the only people I allowed to take photographs were Kevin and Bean. And occasionally, you know, if the program director, the heavy hitters, but I didn't want the guests to feel like they were rolling in to a pop station and everyone's going to get their autograph and they were going to be hounded. No, I wanted to create where they could come in their sweats, in a t-shirt, you know, like Gwen Stefani could come in and not have to do her makeup, which never happened. But like that type of that she could have exactly.
The option was there.
Charlize Theron is a great example. She would come in her sweats, and she's gorgeous with nothing on. You know what I mean? And we got to that rapport with a lot of guests because we weren't taking photos and stuff like that. We were just like, it's just loose. They just roll in.
And that's one thing I liked about even being on the air when I would come in from partying and then coming on the next day. And it's like they're handing me a Jack and Coke. It's not scripted. is just there, or the jokes or the banter. It was never scripted. Those guys were good. I ended up going to Groundlings just because I needed to catch up, So I went for 2 years to Groundlings just to sharpen up. And I remember Kevin was like, "Yo, bro, it's working, dude. You're getting it." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude." It was just being in there with guys that had been doing it like that for so long that it was just flowing.
And they knew talent. Like I didn't. Like I take zero credit for any of that stuff. So I just tried to make sure I wanted Kevin and Bean to be the best that they could be, and then I would shine as well, potentially. Like they'd be like, "Good job, you did a decent job." And so if they wanted guests, then I would drive to wherever I needed to drive to get a guest or to sit in someone's lobby until they would, because if they wouldn't take my call, I'd go there, to the agent or the publicist's office, whatever I needed to do to get the job done to make them more successful, it would bleed down to me. Sure. So that's the way I looked at it. And I never was like, "Oh, I'm this talented, I'm the producer," because there's a lot of producers that are on the air. And I did, the first part, so I went from being Maria's assistant as an intern. I interned for a year, unpaid, and then Scott Mason, God rest his soul, knew that I was a really hard worker, and he's like, and I know you want to stay here, so I'm going to give you a $6 an hour job, sweeping the transmitter, going through logs and stuff, and Jed won't ever sign anything, so you need to go in every day and get Jed to sign his log, because it's legal.
Yeah, you have to sign them.
You got to say I'm on the air from this time to this time, and the transmitter is putting out this much wattage and blah blah blah. So Jed could be bothered with that stuff. So
radio stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's kind of the stuff I was doing, and then so I for about 6 months I worked for Scott. At the same time, Kennedy, who's on Fox Business and all that stuff. So Kennedy and I worked together on the phones. She went in and got the first gig doing backing up Kevin. So you would sit behind Kevin, you'd operate the reel-to-reel player, you'd cut tape, you'd get all of your carts, your commercials ready, and all that stuff stacked up. So Kevin didn't have to pay attention to what's next. He would just pull it out of the pile and put it in the machine and hit play. And she was
flashback, Steve.
Yeah, she was awful at that, but she was really, really talented.
Carts and all that. That shit don't exist no more, bro.
Carts.
And
Doug the Slug's got them all. Sluggo's got them.
Yeah. Or because when I first started at K-Rock, you still had the the little carts and you had to put them in and shit. And then after a couple years, all of a sudden there's computers and shit. Yeah. So
carts sucked. Carts sucked. Serious balls. Carts was a looped tape. So maybe you see it on some cartoon or some old show where they have it looks like an 8-track, an 8-track tape. They're about half an inch thick and about as big as my hand, and they had a looped tape. Like it was actually taped together at the end, so it would go forever. And it had a little tone which would make it stop and start at the right spot. Well, a lot of DJs were either high or whatever, and they would when the song would end, they'd hit stop, which you're never supposed to do. You don't hit stop; you just turn it down and you let it finish, so it queues up automatically. Yeah. But you'd go up and get on we had the hot songs on this wall right to your right, so you could just look at the log, grab right on your right hand, throw it right into the cart machine, and you'd be like, "Hey, it's 106.7 KROQ, KROQ. It's Saturday night. It's a big old party. Hit it." Nothing. And you're like, "Oh my God." So you're like, then you grab another cart. You're like, "All right, sorry about the dead air, ladies and gentlemen. So blah, blah, blah. What do you say?" You're like, "Hit it." Nothing. And so I still have nightmares about this. Yeah. Like, I swear to God, I still have nightmares about this, where I grab every cart off the wall, and then I start grabbing CDs, and the CDs are scratched and skipping. And it's like, I can't make anything play, so I just have to do this. I have to riff. All night, I have to just talk, and I wake up in a sweat every single time. It sucks.
Wow.
It sucks.
Still to this day. He just had that last night.
Dude, I'm not joking. Once a week, I have that dream.
Is dead air like later. The worst one?
Oh,
is that the worst one of them all?
People can get fired for dead air.
Sure.
We get fired for dead air.
Yeah. Oh my God. We had a DJ. She was from Boston or wherever she was from, and she was a whack-a-mole, and talented when she was on on a roll. But other than that, she was just a really strange person. But she only drank Tab. And she, for whatever reason, she would always be in a hurry, and she'd leave it in her car. So or at least that's what I think was happening. And so it would be 2 a.m.
That sounds like a junkie story.
Yeah. She'd put on a 12-inch remix of something, and she'd go downstairs to get her quote-unquote Tab. Oh, she did have Tab. Like, there was Tab throughout the building. So there actually was the Tab, the pink cans. And so she would go down, and sure enough, she wouldn't be able to get back in, and the song eventually would just run out. And then an engineer would have to get up, or we'd have to find security to open all the doors.
Holy
and so
shit.
You might have a half an hour dead air.
Half an hour?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know even in my car or wherever listening to the radio, if there's dead air,
You
I'm
listen.
like, I'm
We
like,
all
oh
do.
shit, there's dead air.
And you
It's
listen.
like I'm like, what? Like is someone freaking out? And in my mind, I'm like, who's back there going? What the fuck? Like,
Oh, there's
man,
a program
it's
director and a sales manager that are freaking out.
freaking
yeah.
out,
If I hear
man.
dead air today, I'm gonna pull off the road and I'm gonna sit there, turn off the car, and just wait.
Oh, it's
and
the
I'm just
best.
gonna listen to it. You're like, someone's getting hammered.
Oh, dude, someone's getting fired.
Someone's
It's
getting
the
fired. yeah.
best. Hear that? Like,
And they don't though. No one
oh.
ever gets fired. No one ever
Wow,
gets fired.
really?
No, for whatever reason, no one ever gets fired for that stuff.
Holy shit.
I used to play songs that I wasn't supposed to play because sometimes they have them like listed, especially overnights. There's certain songs I got to play, and then it'll be like extra time, and they have like 5 songs that can fill that extra time.
Right.
That's it. I'd be like, nah, today I'm gonna do this song, and
Yeah,
I'll put it
this
in like
one,
a deep cut from like Morrissey or a Social D1, and then I'd go on there and be like, because people would call up and ask for stuff.
That's good until there's a bunch of F-bombs in that song.
Oh, that's good until someone happened to be coming home from a club, and then they hear and they're like, whoa, we have never played that
like,
song.
why
What's
is that
going
song
on?
on
Yeah.
the radio?
And then you
right
get called
now?
in Monday,
and that
you're
would
like,
happen a lot. Or you get called on the blue line or the
Yeah.
red line or the yellow line.
Either
Yeah,
way, it's like,
yeah.
what are you doing? Do you see the list to the left of you? Stick to that.
Like,
Well, that's exactly what they said.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right, all right, sorry.
I already played it, so
Dude, what's that song? What's that? Oh my God, I'm gonna space on this song. When Carson played the one song, it was like 5 in the afternoon, and it was. Oh my God, it was like lesbians talking about lesbians, and it was every F-bomb and every bad thing you could say in a song. Oh my God. Kiss me in the rear, kiss me. What?
Oh, shit.
So he plays this song at 5 in the afternoon, and it's just F-bomb after F-bomb after bad thing after bad thing.
This is Mr.
And
Carson Daly that did
Yeah, it's
this?
Carson.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he would put on a song, turn his headphones off, or just set his headphones to the side and record a call. All the phone calls you hear are recorded.
Yeah.
You have to record them because you can't have cursing and all that stuff. So even in the early days, you're recording all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? Now I will say morning show stuff that was live, and you did have a delay, and you could dump out, right? And you could mute someone basically.
Yeah.
But all the other jocks would all record during
Until
during
I
their
figured
shift,
that out,
right?
I was like, how did they have that song ready to go so fast?
And you can always tell, like, here's the tell. Like, here's the tell. Even today, if you guys are listening to the radio, when the DJ goes, hey, who do we have on the line? And they go, hey, this is Bill. And they jump right in with no pause because that's not human. They always cut it too tight. So they go, hey, so we've got a whole rack of calls lined up, and what do you guys want to hear? Who's this on the line? This is Joe. I'm Blaine. Like, no one just jumps in. Because that doesn't happen. The DJ throws it to you. You're on the phone. You're in the car, and you hear this.
And you hear the
And there's a sound effect that, like, they're engaging the line, and then there's a moment, and you go, and they go, hey, is this Bill? And you're like, oh, hey, yeah, this is Bill. Like, that's a real conversation. You know?
Yeah.
So these DJs always edit that stuff out way too tight. So that's like inside baseball, right? I can always tell when it's
Why does everybody
loosen that
sound
up.
so far away when you call it on the radio station?
When you call the radio station?
Yeah, it
okay.
always sounds so far.
How tech geek do you want to get?
Not at all. That's not at all. I'm just saying why. Because
That's a big question,
dumb
Johnny.
it down. Dumb
Yeah,
it down.
yeah.
Okay, so here's why. When you're live, just like we are now, for you guys who are watching us on YouTube or Twitch or wherever it is, we're all wearing
Facebook,
headphones.
YouTube,
Okay?
and Twitch.
So
right.
we're all wearing headphones. Okay? And so because we record when we're in a song, like right now we're in the middle of a song, we're like, okay, now we're going to go talk to the listeners. We take our headphones off, and then we talk to the person on the phone line, and they're in a speaker in the studio. That speaker gets picked up by the microphone.
Sure.
So you get this hollow loop. It's exactly what happens when you have someone yelling like this. So I'm picked up on all the microphones, and it sounds hollow, right? If you muted all the mics but mine, I won't sound hollow. But as long as your mics are live, I sound hollow.
Hollow's the
So
exact
when you
perfect
have all these wacky morning shows, like it happens to Woody all the time at 98.7, and it's whatever the show is, you got a bunch of guys sitting around a table like this, and they start yelling about something, and all of a sudden it gets hollow sounding. It's because I'm heard through your microphone, and it gets out of phase.
Yes, because hollow's the perfect
And
word
so that
for it.
happens when they're recording the calls during a song. And they're listening to that, Joe from Pacoima is coming through a little tiny 5-inch speaker up on the wall over here, and that's being put through the microphone, and that's how that.
Why is it Pacoima? Every time someone explains, Juan from
Yeah.
Pacoima, Joe from Pacoima.
Richie-
Pacoima's just
Yeah,
a
it's
comedy
like-
trigger. It's like
yeah.
it's like Ukaipa Pacoima. avocado. You went to Groundlings. It's specifics,
No,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
specificity, right?
Yeah.
Ricardo Valenzuela from
From
Pacoima.
Pacoima,
Right, exactly.
with his
that's what I
flying
said.
guitar.
Exactly. That's all Pacoima means to me. Is I know that's where
yeah.
fucking Richie Valens is from.
It's like it's a lot of inside baseball radio talk here. I can't imagine this is relatable to
Oh
you.
no, it is
know?
relatable, dude. I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of people, and this is where some people think I'm hating, but a lot of people that you worked at K-Rock at the tail end, that didn't get the true K-Rock when I had first gotten there. I'm not saying that I was there for the main heyday, but I was there still when we were doing shit that was, before we got stopped from doing stuff after the wardrobe malfunction.
Who is
with in the Super Bowl?
Janet Jackson.
Dude,
Yeah.
we didn't even. If you remember, we did not get to see that because we were at the Key Club for a Super Bowl.
We didn't even know what
event,
happened.
and there was a band playing during halftime.
It was Gwen's ex-husband.
so we did not.
Bush.
So
No, not Bush, but just him, Gavin.
Gavin
So
Rossdale.
yeah, but not he wasn't with Bush at the time.
So
It was
we
just
did
him.
not
solo.
see. So we did not see any halftime show when that happened. We were watching the band. I remember that.
I was talking to somebody else about this, Steve. That you bring. It's strange that I feel like we've talked about this before, but I don't know of anyone else talking about this. I think that there must be someone in radio or TV who talks about it, but I call it the Janet Jackson effect, because that was the moment. So that Super Bowl was on CBS.
Yeah.
And so Justin Timberlake reaches around and whether it's accidental or not, I do think it was accidental, because that's even Justin Timberlake's not going to do that. Like, he's pretty conservative. And he accidentally rips her top off, and she's nude for just a minute. She's topless, right? Kind of, sort of, right?
Yeah, she
No,
had
she
nipple,
had a
nipple
ring.
shields on.
Yeah,
she
that's
had
why I think it
shields.
was set up.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because she had nipple shields. Like
No,
it's
no.
like it's
No, they do-
elaborate.
No, those things are, well, whatever.
Whatever,
I don't.
regardless.
I just don't think so. Right? I'm
Yeah.
pretty naive that way. I don't think that was set up, because
Like Chris Rock got slapped for real.
No, I do think so.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, anyways, go on with the nipple story.
So CBS had the Super Bowl. CBS was also CBS Radio. They had like hundreds of radio stations and hundreds and hundreds of television stations. And all of a sudden, they were on blast by everyone.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, you just showed nudity. Why didn't you have a delay feature where the actual live feed is 15 seconds behind? So in the event that there's an F-bomb or anything, right, you can go to black, or you could put up color bars, or you could go to a commercial, like whatever. Just choose a different camera
Something
for that
else.
matter. You know what I mean? So anything. And they didn't have it. They had no excuses. So that not only did that change the way that television and radio, all of radio had to be on delay. There was no more live radio. Everyone had to have a dump button. They had to be in delay, 15, 18 seconds, whatever it was. Then the shows like we had Ralph Sex University.
Yeah, I got taken out.
It just was a domino effect of everything got really conservative really fast. And everything that was sexually oriented just got hammered, just got taken away. And it had some really negative effects to creatives in radio. It made it really, really hard. And
I remember Kevin Weatherly came into the Kevin and Bean office at the time.
He was
and
a
he had
program
an
director.
envelope.
Yeah.
He had an envelope, and he goes, usually you're pushing the envelope, right? He goes, you need to stay in here now. Like, there's no more
You're
pushing
in
this
the
envelope.
envelope. No,
There's no
like,
more
this
this. I was
envelope
like,
stays right here.
Shit.
Yeah. They were serious.
Yeah, they were serious, bro.
And you know what? And so it ended up, like, flash forward a bunch of years later, like, at that time, going back to like when there was Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern and Kevin and Bean, they were all under the umbrella of this guy named Mel Karmazin, who owned Infinity Broadcasting. And Infinity at that time was like 18 stations, all like these really important radio stations. But Mel Karmazin believed it wasn't about the stick or the antenna or the frequency or the wattage or the format. He believed it was about the talent. He believed that there's only one Howard Stern, there's only one Kevin and Bean, there's only one Opie and Anthony, and whatever the talent was. And he had all every one of his 18 stations had all-stars on them. And he would go to bat for them. Like, if they got into trouble, he would go in front of the FCC and go to bat for them. So it's like knowing that no matter what kind of fight you get into, at school, roughhousing or whatever, your dad's going to come and set it straight.
He's got your back.
He's got your back. Like, son, step off. I got this. And Mel was that way.
Yeah.
And then he sold the company to CBS and to Viacom and blah, blah, blah. And every time it traded hands, it was less and less of that no one had your back, to a point where the DJs at some point in, I don't know, somewhere in the 2005-ish, 8-ish range, somewhere in there, they then had to sign agreements, their talent agreements that said if they let bad words or bad content on the air, they were financially liable for any FCC fines.
Jesus Christ.
So at that point, it changed everything.
Fuck yeah.
For a lot of guys, yeah.
Yeah,
and it was
fuck that.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
tough.
now it's like no. No push.
It got really ugly ugly for a really long time with a lot of very important talent over that.
I'll bet.
They're like, no, you, I work for you. You protect me.
Sure.
You hired me to do a job. My job is to get people listening. If everything's milquetoast, everything's vanilla, no one's going to listen.
They don't give
it's
a
why,
fuck.
eventually we'll get to like, why does radio blow today? For that, for that reason. Well, many reasons. That's one of them.
My favorite ongoing bit. Now I'm just thinking about it. My favorite ongoing bit that you guys did was the old man in the nursing home. What was that guy's name? You guys got him a stripper one time?
Oh, you're talking about not Ben. You're talking about
God damn it.
Sam Weiser.
That's his name.
So Sam Weiser was in his
was the
90s
man.
or something like that. Sam Weiser was, and how we found him, I don't recall. He was, I do. It was one of our listeners' like grandfather.
I'm sure.
And he was in a home, one of those assisted living homes, but he had a nice living room and stuff and whatever. And he just had an amazing sense of humor. We liked old, funny people. And we would get him on the phone to just talk to him or get their opinions about the stuff and do gags and whatnot. And it was his birthday, so we sent a stripper over. And she like legit stripped in front of him.
The drops played.
Oh yeah, he was making all. So yeah,
it just became a part of the show. Was dropping this old man sex noises in.
I think Ralph Garman was over there with the microphone, putting it in his face. So while he's it's like, oh yeah, oh baby.
And I just wanted to be in my 90s still, like, fuck, I get this shit.
He was rocking it. We loved the wacky old people, the funny old people, for sure.
Don Zerteca says, "What great show, guys." The Dungeon Podcast, he says the WWE.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte's boobs popped out a few times last night at WrestleMania.
There was a handful of black screens.
Yeah, for sure. They kept camera cutting.
They got to cut away?
Like a bunch of times. But there was a couple times where there's just nothing you can do. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. Like, honestly, with the way
wrestling
and with the way those chicks are dressed on there, the way what they dress them up in, and like I'm surprised it doesn't.
They need like an audience cam. You know what I mean? Because you can always go to the audience.
Sure,
you just cut away to the audience.
Yeah.
But they've got enough cameras. They did it, but they cut away, came back. It's like, oh, it's back.
There it is.
There's that titty again.
And D says there's only one West Coast. And that's right, D.
That's right. There is only one West Coast Pop Lock podcast.
Yeah.
If anybody else comes, it's fucking
We're gonna
man.
pop a lock.
I mean,
all over 'em, bro.
good luck to you.
Yeah.
Choose a better name.
Yeah, please.
A shorter one.
I've been a personal fanatic of the radio station for many years. Is what kind of led me to Steve, and I felt all those transitions and didn't know why until like now. Like fuck, that all makes sense. Like
That's so
I saw the ripple. I felt
Mario's
the ripple.
emotions were being touched.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm like, holy fuck, man! It took one thing to just clamp down on everything.
One of the best.
There were already things, like so. Kevin Weatherly, who I think is the most talented program director, and I didn't work at other radio stations. I only worked at K-Rock, and I had thought about going to other radio stations because you can climb the ladder much quicker if you just like in any business.
Sure.
Whether you're a car salesman or whatever, you bounce around, you go up the ladder. You're assistant salesman, then you're a salesman, then you're general sales manager, then you're the sales manager, then you're this. You know what I mean? Then eventually you own one. Like some guys do that, and radio's no different. But I don't have a lot of experience because I never had any desire to go work at another radio station. I thought I started at the biggest, most important station.
Exactly.
Even if I make more money, I will be miserable.
Sure.
And I'll just want to come back, I think. But Kevin Weatherly, who was the program director, just was so incredibly talented, as was Andy Schoen prior to him. But Kevin was just, I don't know, he was genius, just genius. He could hear hit songs from a mile away. Just incredible. Whether it was hip hop, pop, alternative rock, he just knew the formula. And but he would say like it's not going to be one thing that does K-Rock in. It will be death by a thousand cuts.
Sure.
And that is kind of really what happened. It started though, I think, the biggest thing that tidal wave didn't take out the town. The Janet Jackson was the tidal wave, but it didn't take out all the city.
No. It was a tsunami, but
It was a tsunami,
Yeah.
but it was all the other things. It was all the other lawsuits and all the other things that happened along the way. You
But
know?
I think that
And then-
was the start of it, like you said, because then
and then all
put
the
handcuffs
firings.
on you.
Yeah, all the firings. You know,
Yeah.
like it was bad. So no state. I'm sure that this happened elsewhere in the country, but this station in particular, like it went from hero to zero so
Sure,
fast.
it was fast.
I mean, fast to us. You know.
But the mighty fall
And-
the hardest and quickest. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
But it was
Like,
just like they kept letting people go and not being able to find their way. They were firing people unceremoniously. People that and what was not understood at the time is the connection to people like you and to me,
Sure.
like Lisa May, who was the traffic girl, to the radio station. Like she's the traffic girl. Wait a minute, you started listening in 1997. When you were in like grade school, and then flash forward 18 years later, you're still listening to, you grew up with this woman always,
Yep.
whether she was good or not, she was a member of your family.
but when does
She was a
enough
member of your
become enough,
family.
though?
And then all of a sudden she's shown
Here comes Steve with his fucking.
No, because
she wasn't good.
no, I'm just saying like you have look at.
Well,
did
no,
they
no.
make the wrong?
I'm going to get there. Hold on a second. I knew where you were going with this. So, like, they are. Were you laughing at me now?
No, he's laughing at me.
So they're blowing people out. They people that they had wanted that should have moved on or whatever. We'll come to back to that later. But there were people that were beloved by the audience. K-Rock had a really big audience that all of a sudden just weren't there the next day, and they were like, "I just was walked out today." They'd go on social media and just say,
I think they
I
did it
just
wrong.
I would just walked to my car, and the audience was like, "What? A nuclear bomb just went off in my family." Like every single morning driving to grade school with my parents, junior high, high school, and college, I listened to this person, and now they were just showing the door like, F this station.
And with the advent, with the social media coming around.
That's what happened.
Because before, like, if your favorite DJ got fired off a radio station, you'd be like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And you'd have no one to ask and nowhere to go.
No, and you were going to write a letter? What are you
but
going to do?
to-
You know what I
to
mean?
be
You're
able to
going to
go-
mail it in?
Write a
For
letter.
them to be able to go on Twitter and immediately go, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I just got, then it allows people to be angry, to be like, what the fuck? Like in real time, as opposed to finding out months later.
Look,
what happened.
there's a lot of stuff that even today I can't talk about, like stuff that I would love to share with people on how some of the things really went down. But we've all talked about it internally, and I don't think it's ever going to come out. I don't, which sucks. But I don't think that people will tell the really what happened in each different scenario. And I can't be that guy. I wasn't part of it. Like, I wasn't in that decision-making process. I wasn't the firer. I wasn't the firee. So it'll be interesting to see if that stuff ever comes out, you know?
Nah.
It might, because we're going to do a second round of interviews for this documentary.
That's
that
what
we
I was
shot.
about to ask you. So let's talk about the documentary.
So one of the last things before I left the radio stations and went back into my first love, automotive and car stuff, we shot a documentary. And how that happened was super weird. Not weird, but like I knew that I had always wanted to shoot a documentary about the radio station. And I didn't think that I had the chops to do it. Yes, I'm okay with a video camera. I can edit. I can do all audio, all that stuff. But I'm not a great storyteller, as you guys at home can tell, right? I'm not a great storyteller. I'm not gifted like Kevin or Bean or any of those guys. I'll do it. I set that up. Like, I just don't do that. So I was going to go find a storyteller. So I pitched this idea to Kevin Weatherly and to Gene Sandbloom and Lisa and then people above them and everyone. I said, let's shoot a documentary. And they're like, well, there's too much to tell, and we don't have the money. And there was 100 excuses not to do it. And I said, look, can I start? Can you just at least let me start and go find a producer or a director or someone? I'm like, okay, all right, go ahead and start. So I went and got a couple guys who shot documentaries about Coachella. I got music video directors, and we started taking some meetings. And we probably did 4 or 5 meetings. Mm-hmm. Not as many as I would have liked, but we're in the process of doing meetings and warming the powers that be up at the radio station, like this could actually be a thing. And then I catch wind so Adam Carolla who you guys know now has done a bunch of documentaries. So some about comedians, a lot about cars, things like that. At that time, he had Mike Shinoda, I think it was Mike Shinoda, on his podcast, The Adam Carolla Show. And I guess they were talking, waxing poetically, about K-Rock, that they both got their start there. Right? Adam Carolla was Mr. Burcham and a bunch of other characters, and he was Adam Carolla, Loveline, and all that stuff, right? And Mike Shinoda were talking about it. And Adam's like, you know what? My next documentary is going to be about K-Rock. So I hear about this. I don't listen to a show as much as I'd like to. I do enjoy it. I hear that he's going to shoot a documentary. So I can't get a hold of Adam. I call Lynette, his wife, and she goes, yeah, I think that's the next thing he was going to do. You should talk to Nate, the director. I go, he's got a director already? What? So I call Nate. I get his number and I call Nate and he goes, yeah, this is what we're planning. We're going to do a documentary and he blah, 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 blah. And I go, why did you not reach out to K-Rock? Why don't you reach out? Do you know I'm working on this right now? And he goes, Adam doesn't want to be saddled with all the legal stuff. He's just going to shoot it. We're going to go rogue. We're going to do our thing, the way that we do it. And because the documentary falls under different laws, you can just do whatever you want. You don't have to get certain licenses and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, for music and things like that, but like you can use found footage and all that stuff, right? It just falls under a different set of guidelines legally. And that's the route they were going to go. And I thought, you're not going to get access. I'm telling Nate, you're not going to get access to any of like Weenie Roast footage, like the time that Sublime played at the Weenie Roast, you know what I mean? Or any of these things, when Sublime blew up the studio with Jednet or whatever, they like all these crazy stories and things like that. The footage that we have, I go, you're not going to get any of that. And he goes, well, why? I go, because we're shooting a documentary, and that's where that footage is going to go. And he goes, well, we're just going to have to do our own thing, blah, blah, blah. So I went to Weatherly, and I said, we got to put this is not going to happen. We're going to put a stop to this. And so I told him, you can't move forward, blah, blah, blah. That was a couple weeks before Acoustic Christmas. At Acoustic Christmas, the big concert at Christmas time, obviously, Bean rolls up and he goes, hey, you going to be up there tomorrow? I go, up where? And he goes, Adam Carolla's spot. I go, what are you guys doing? He goes, we're our interviews for the documentary. I said, no, you're not. And I was like, I don't tell them what to do, but I'm like, that time I'm like, no, you're not. We're working on the doc and this is not happening. Went to Kevin Weatherly and he goes, stop this. So just kibosh right there. They didn't go the next day. Adam was upset. Nate was upset. And so at that point forward, I had more conversations with Adam and Nate. I said, let's do this together. I know you don't want to, but let's do this together. This will give you access to all the footage and the audio that we have, all the photographs, everything, the whole shebang. It'll give you all that stuff. And, and K-Rock will, be cast in the best possible light, and we'll have final say on it, No, you won't cast any aspersions on the radio station and whatnot. And that took a year exactly. The next Acoustic Christmas is when we announced to the staff that we had done a deal with Adam Carolla's Chassis Media. And so immediately following that, we started shooting people. Coldplay, Green Day, U2, like all that stuff. And afterwards, I'll see if I have the sizzle reel, the 8-minute sizzle reel. I'll play for you off the air. And,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and I don't know if I'm breaking news here, but it's been financed. I might be spoiling something.
West Coast Pop Lock Podcast exclusive.
Hell yeah. That's how you do it, though, man. You know what I'm saying? He takes down Goliath, bro.
Yeah.
Right.
He says, fuck you. I'm not going to take no. You ain't going to do shit. And you would think, oh, it's Adam. Oh, he's going to fucking bully you. But see, that's because we talk a lot about that kind of stuff here on the show.
I had spent, and absolutely, and I have an incredible amount of respect for Adam. Like the talent that guy possesses.
No,
and,
for
and,
sure.
And the
it's
business
not about
acumen
that.
and all that. No, but when it came to this, I had invested my soul. Not just time, my soul into this project. And I'm like,
But
no.
not even that. You've invested your soul into the station.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
You know what I'm saying? and so this is your baby that comes out of that.
Right.
That hard work, all the time you put in, all the effort you put in. And what I'm trying to get at is that a lot of people stop following their dreams or stop, trying to achieve that one thing they want. And you didn't allow it, even though you knew this guy has already doing this, has money, has all this shit that you.
Dude, he already had like 3 Lamborghinis at that point.
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of people get scared or they shy away from like continuing on.
It's like, oh, he got it.
Fuck it,
he got
man.
it.
He beat me to it. You're like,
Right.
nah. This is my fucking dream.
I knew that we had the right story to tell and we had the right people and stuff. So anyway, we shot everyone. We shot 2 DJs that have since passed away. We shot general managers. Our story starts in like 1972. Way back before when it was AM and then went FM and like all.
It was on 2 right at the same time, AM and FM at the same time.
I think I don't know if it. I don't think it was ever on the same like simulcast. No, but I don't. This is a story that we told. I've heard, but I don't recall.
What do you mean? You did a documentary. You ain't got answers. You got no answers for me?
I'm not the director. Nate's the director. And since then, it's funny that Nate and I are really good friends. And I'm hiring Nate to do a shoot to do a documentary about my boss today, like in my automotive life. And he does really amazing work. So that's a whole nother thing. But that was a labor of love. And so I guess we worked on that for like 2 years, roughly. Lots and lots of interviews. Interviewed every single DJ, general managers, sales managers. We had everyone in. We had from all the Loveline hosts that have been through there. Because people think that Loveline started with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew.
Not true.
Not true. I mean, it was you had Ricky Rackman and you had Stryker and you had Psycho Mike, and before that it was Poor Man started it. Poor Man and you had a lot of characters. We had. Yeah, I mean, we had everyone. So I'm really excited, and I hope it translates. Like, I'm really concerned that, because I don't want to tell the story of a local radio station. Like, I hope that the story is interesting to anyone. And, if you live in Des Moines, Iowa, you're like, oh my God, like, this is where Sublime first was played.
Sure.
That type of thing.
And even even just the music, if you know anything about the entertainment industry, just the people that have come out of K-Rock that started there or passed through there, or other the names that are out.
Or even just hung out. Like, you go to a Acoustic Christmas.
I mean, Jimmy Kimmel and Carson Daly and Kennedy and Adam Carolla. And,
but even the movie stars that would come to Acoustic, man. You're going through the halls of Acoustic Christmas when it was at the Gibson.
It's everyone.
Dude, it was everybody. All the big hitter movie stars. Because there was backstage, and then there was backstage.
Dude, Easy played. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then there was backstage. So there was like all these different levels. And when you go through the back, you see all these movies, like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean, we had enough draw to pull Kanye in his heyday. Yeah. You know what I mean?
To pull Shaq in the helicopter to come down and land in the middle of the show.
It was neat. It was neat. So hopefully that'll translate.
And I think there is no, because we talk about this all the time. We talk about a local radio station. There is nothing in Los Angeles is local. You're automatically
that's
nationwide, worldwide. There is anything.
Well, that's something
if you're famous here, you're famous everywhere.
That's something that I think also kind of undid not just K-Rock, but a lot of radio stations, is that they got syndicated. So as like your Spotify's and Pandora's and all these things come along, right? We all listen to audio, and a lot of kids listen to YouTube audio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll listen to, whatever the band is. Or the artist, and they don't pay attention to the video. They just listen to it, right? YouTube is still the most streamed audio source, believe it or not, for people.
That's unbelievable.
And then and Spotify and Pandora's and all that stuff. And so, I forgot where I was going with this. As radio started to shrink, and it was very, very slow. It wasn't like, oh crap, streaming audio is here and we're over. It wasn't like that. It was, the ratings were still there. We were still really, really strong. People were listening. And actually when Spotify and Pandora and all these biggies came to the forefront, they actually brought more ears to audio. They didn't actually take away. We thought it was going to, like, there's only so many listeners, and if you listen on Pandora, you're not going to listen to FM or AM or whatever. That turned out to be not true in the beginning. It just brought more, because there was more content, more goodness, right? And so that didn't last that long. Eventually, people started to bail, right?
Yeah.
Because as the Janet Jackson effect, and people were going elsewhere for the content that they were looking for, and different, more edgier music, and radio stations were starting to play less edgy music and things like that, starting to take fewer chances, right? And then as those things started happening, the company started making less money. Well, what happens when you make less money? You can't afford people.
Sure.
So then you start letting people go. And when you let people go, you go, hey, wait a minute. We have this really successful morning show in L.A. Why don't we just put them on in Chicago and Wisconsin and Kansas and blah, blah, blah. And that's what you do. Well, then all of a sudden that L.A. morning show now can't talk about, they can't send Super Steve down on the corner,
Sure.
put him in Compton, over here and do a live radio bit because that doesn't relate to a guy in Michigan, right?
But see, that's where I
then-
think it's wrong. I think it does.
Well, so they didn't.
Yeah, no,
So
of
they're
course.
like, hey, you can't really do the local stuff anymore. Or the DJs felt like, oh, well, I'm going to be in 80 cities. Like, I'm not going to do local. That's stupid. I want to be like Entertainment Tonight. I want to be national. Well, they stopped doing the one thing that local radio can do, which is be local.
Yeah.
Because guess what you can't be if you're Pandora or Spotify? You can't be local.
Absolutely.
You're global, right? And they're trying now with their algorithms, and they're giving you, specific playlists and some traffic reports and stuff like that with some of these streaming services.
But it's true. It's not your neighborhood. It's not your people.
No,
It's not,
and I think, and you grew up with a guy that went to your local bar, like, hey, Kevin and Bean are going to be at Safari Bar in West Covina tonight. You're like, I'm going to go see those guys. You know what I mean? Lightning's going to be at the the Shack in Anaheim. We're gonna
Live
play-
bait.
Yeah, live bait. You know what I mean?
I remember going to like
Live bait.
when
I
the
met my
Lakers were in
wife
the
at Live
playoffs and got married in Santa Anita.
Dude, yeah. I'm all radio station. Yeah.
But yeah, the thing was
Be
that
at Chillers in Redondo.
So like that.
that was my first Kevin and Bean breakfast. Was that
Chillers in Redondo, dude. I
Chillers,
was
dude.
there.
Wow.
That shit was dope, bro.
Yeah. Wait, who played? Was that Sugar Ray? Who played?
I don't even remember who played.
even-
We
I
were
don't even
so
know if
fucked
a
up,
band
bro.
played.
We
Yeah.
drank so much, man.
Those fucking-
I had a sombrero, and what we did to it, we cut the top off and put a salsa holder in it
Yeah.
and chips. And I was just walking around. People were like,
Oh, dude, every hot chick in the place was grabbing chips and salsa off his head.
Dude, we left that place so faded because it was like, hey, I'll have a big stick, and they're hitting all the
Dude, there were so many
flavors.
times, guys, that we set him up to win, like with girls. Like so many times, we're like, we just made him the center of attention. Because A, it was funny, but B, they were like, the girls would always think it's cute. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, we put him in a costume, and he's like, this costume is screwed. Like, I'm embarrassed. But then the girls are wanting to touch it because he's wearing like a silky cape or something.
It's like,
whatever.
okay,
Like,
it's cool.
yeah, they think it's rad. Don't. Yeah, you know it's true.
Vegas was crazy when we would go out there, man. That's how Johnny became our good friend and all, is because he went on a Kevin and Bean singles party.
Yeah, right. Yeah, those were nuts. Like when,
Yeah.
and so we would used to take a bus to Vegas, and that's where the party was. When you get to Vegas, everyone's already faded and tired. Maybe
And
Dude, when you get to
Cool.
Barstow, everyone's fucked up.
yeah.
I remember my first one. I get to Barstow, and I'm in the restroom in the bus. It's Johnny's bus, Johnny's Express, and I'm in the restroom, and I'm holding onto the wall. I'm like, I am fucked up.
yeah.
And then Kevin and Bean are like, Steve, come out. You're going to do, like, I used to bite beer cans and just fucking drink them, bite the bottom and drink it. They're all, here, do it, bite it. And I was like, oh, fuck.
I was still
I
going,
bit it, but I
man.
was-
Here we
We had,
go.
we had 3 buses. So when we did it, when we first launched that, we had the Kevin bus, the Bean bus, and the Lightning bus.
Yes.
And my bus had Brad on it.
Oh.
It had Bald Brad.
Bald
which
Brad.
Some of you know, some of you most probably don't know him, but he's a party animal. And he brought his friends Paul
He's still
and
a
Jeff.
party animal.
And I don't know if it was them, but somebody brought a keg or 2 on my bus. And because I said, I'm going to bring a keg on my bus. And there was some alcohol in Kevin's a little bit and nothing in Bean's. Like Bean was going to have the square bus. Like he was going to have the
Sure.
bus with no shenanigans.
I would have been so mad.
And
If
so-
I go there, you're on Beans.
But the
like,
thing is, people thought that was funny, or he was joking. He was like, no, we're just gonna read. We're just gonna read magazines all the way
All
to
the way
Vegas.
to, yeah.
Vegas. And there were people, and so we're going by. There's 3 buses, and we're like, our bus and Kevin's bus are BAing, Bean's bus, hanging ass out the windows and stuff. And it was so much fun.
Chicks are flashing, like
And
all the shit.
And so when we get to Barstow or wherever we stop, like the
Barstow, yeah.
Lenwood exit or whatever,
Yeah.
and
Get some Del Taco.
everyone, the big giant tacos there, for you guys who know what we're talking about. Everyone piles out of the buses to take a pee break, and when we get back into my bus, there's no seats, there's no standing room. Beans is half empty, Kevin's is half empty. Everyone's in there because they heard that's where all the beer and the booze was in my bus.
party.
And we just got annihilated. Paul and some girl got naked, and I don't mean kind of naked, like zero clothing, and they were just dancing. The radio's up. It was a crazy party. So like the next 3 singles trips that we did to Vegas, we're like, I'm in Lightning's bus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah.
And,
Not only that, but even like Weenie Roast, Acoustic Christmas. Like you look at those old lineups, bro. It's killers from the top to the bottom. We were doing Coachella, all this festival shit that everyone goes to now. That shit was getting done years ago.
Yeah.
By this station.
Yeah,
in LA.
And back then, now every radio station has a Christmas
yeah.
show. But back then, there were some. The big ones did, but not
but not the way we did it.
No.
Not even the weenie roast, man.
No, I take no credit for that. That's
but
all
I'm just saying,
department.
but I'm just saying, like in general, K-Rock itself. Yeah. I mean, I know, I had nothing.
We just got that was great. That was something that those were magical moments when we're like, oh my God, we're part of something really neat here.
That's why I come back to what I was going to say was that I go on and some people are like, oh, I missed the old K-Rock. I go, man, you weren't even there for the real K-Rock, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? People that worked after, or people that even when I was there at the end.
It's interesting because, when Bean left the station at whenever year that was, 10 years or something like that, and then Kevin went on with Ali, and there was kind of some people who joined the show, and it's weird to hear them talk about the morning show as if that was the cast that had always been.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'm like, you know the cast, and I'm sure that our parents feel the same way about television. They used like, you don't know the way that it used to be back in the day. Like, I get it, right? But it definitely was an era. That era was super unique.
But the difference was too is like it's not even like, like our parents. They were more wholesome. We were not. Yeah. It was crazy. It became more wholesome. It became more like corporate. And yeah, they have no clue, man. You know what I'm saying? So I read some of the stuff that people put up, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, oh, dude, yeah.
And so we did. At some point, we started what was called the B Team podcast.
Yes.
We weren't the A Team. That was Kevin and Bean. The B Team was all.
You started that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because I said we need to be into podcasting, and I want to tell the story because it was really starting to. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but it was pissing me off that there was all these new listeners that didn't have any idea what Kevin and Bean and K-Rock did in the 90s.
Sure.
And I would have loved to tell the story of the 80s because all the people that came, the prior decade during, that scene, all the synth pop and all that stuff and the DJs, the Richard Blades and Poor Man's and all those people like that made that radio station. They handed over the keys to the castle, you know what I mean? And we did something different with it. So I couldn't tell that story because I wasn't there then. I was a listener. But I wanted to tell the story of the 90s when Kevin and Bean were doing all the crazy stuff. And I wanted to expose the new listeners to it. And so we started the B Team podcast, and we would go through old bits that Kevin and Bean had done in the 90s, and I had access to all that audio, and we started playing it and recapping it. So we'd go through a bit and talk about it. It was me and Omar and Dave, the King of Mexico, right? And Steve would pop in, and we had, Psycho Mike occasionally. Kevin and Bean made appearances, and Beer Mug would come in and stuff like that. Cast of people, all the people were affiliated with the morning show. And it started to like open some people's eyes like, oh crap, like what happened to the show?
Sure.
Like what
so it was more of a detriment than even like
it ended up being like a not so at first we're like, oh, it's a trip down memory lane. Well, no, it's a repositioning.
Sure.
Like we're like, I remember when you were thin.
Yeah,
right.
It's like
I remember when you were hot. You know what
I mean? I remember before those boobs sagged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they were sagging.
It's like, what the fuck, man?
And so that wasn't our mission. My mission was just to like, hey, because I had put in a lot of sweat equity over the 90s and early 2000s, and I'm like, I just want to share this. I think there's so many amazing Kevin and Bean refrigerator where they'd go to some game show host's house and like go in his refrigerator and see what's in the refrigerator. Like all these things that you see on YouTube today, that was done decades ago by not just Kevin and Bean, but other morning show talent, And we just like all those late night Letterman type bits we were doing, the stuff the kids are seeing on YouTube, right? I mean, like Mr. Beast and all that stuff. And so it's just the B Team started shining light on that era, right? And then the guys, after I left the station, they kept it up for some time, another 10, 20 episodes or whatever.
They left the station now.
And they left.
So they're Janky-Town now.
Omar's still there.
Yeah.
But Dave, the King of Mexico, he left with the last version of the Kevin and Bean show. They were all got blown out. And then, so now I feel like everyone's doing podcasts.
Yeah, that's why you're here. Yeah. On the West Coast Pop Lock Podcast, the #1 live podcast. Whether it's a Monday, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday,
every day.
Thursday.
It doesn't matter. Whatever day
Look
I want to take
weekend.
over,
Here
I come for that day.
Have we lost everyone?
Take it.
Are you guys still
we still got
listening?
people. Hell yeah.
People are still coming through.
Are they really? Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the West Coast, bro.
Right?
People listen to this shit no matter what.
I wish
man.
I could do the W thing. I can never I can't do it.
Too white.
Yeah, too white.
Hey, do you have any questions, Mario? You've been pretty silent for a guy that was looking forward to the show.
I am looking forward.
How about this?
Look, this has been a treat. Just, I mean, obviously.
Now why do you get the most expensive mic in the house, but it's the most muffled?
Because I do get really loud.
Oh, there it's better now. There you
Yeah.
go.
It's
I get
him.
really
It's
loud.
him, not the
It's me.
microphone.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, Mario's high as fuck, Zach Rabbit Lopez. You're right.
I have a lot of K-Rock memorabilia. I've been collecting. I went to almost all the signings, all the Best Buy things.
Were you at the Depeche Mode riot
That was the one in
Wilshire? Yeah, in the Wilshire district by Beverly Center.
Was that the one where they took over the whole entire street?
Yes.
Yes, I was there.
No, you know what his number one story
Oh, I was
is,
about to
though?
say this one, so
His
get him.
number one
Oh,
story.
it's a problem if you guys already know the story.
No, the number one story he has is when Morrissey came to K-Rock and he was outside signing things for the little crowd that had shown up to the station right there on Fairfax, the newer station.
Oh, when he was standing at the fence line right there. We had
Yes.
the automatic gate. Were you kicked out before
No.
you could get something signed?
No, he was the next guy to get something signed,
I was standing right there.
and Oso said stop.
Came and gave him the fucking.
Oh, dude. And Oso's like 10 feet tall. Like, you
Yeah,
can't-
and
you're-
at that
you're not
time he
going
was
through
like
Oso.
almost 500 pounds. I was huge.
Yeah, it was a big dude.
All tatted down. He's like, it's over. And Mario was like, no. The one thing he wanted in life was that. And we've had Oso in here before. We've had Oso here.
Oh, nice, really?
Yeah, we had
He
him
was
just talking
like,
like
yeah.
old school shit.
Hasn't he lost like 1 million pounds?
Oh,
and stuff?
man.
Yeah.
Dude.
Slim down.
He went for like 4 something to like, what are you, Oso? Like 180? I know you're listening to the show, bro. Of course. The number one live podcast.
Yeah.
It's He's about like 180 something now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen him. We've
There's
hung
some
out.
people that I got to catch up to. You know, there are people that I still stay in touch with. I frequently. I still talk to Kevin. I was out to dinner with him less than a month ago. I talked to Bean over WhatsApp. Not as much as I'd like, but you know,
Yeah.
I would have liked to. And I've talked about this before that I totally screwed up. Like I should have maintained my relationship with Jimmy Kimmel a little better when he went to the Man Show. He was doing Man Show and When Ben Signs Money and K-Rock, and then eventually he just went all like, I think when he went into Jimmy Kimmel Live, when he started that, he was so busy, and I had just been like promoted to executive producer, and I was just so all in. I just didn't pay enough attention to where his stardom was going, and we maintained friendship. And whenever I'd call and ask, like, "Hey, I want to come down and see the show," or whatever, he was like, "No problem." But then our trajectories diverged, and that's what, like, you know, like, I have no regrets. You know, people lie to you right to your face.
Yeah.
Like, I have no regret. No, I have regret. I have regret that I didn't stay tighter with Jimmy, because
Sure.
Jimmy, you know, people have very strong opinions today about him because of his politics. But I think, Jimmy has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever met in my life, you know, and we could do a podcast just about Jimmy and his generosity. He's a rad dude. But I talked to people like Nicole, who's still there, and Stryker, and Dave the King of Mexico, and a bunch of people. You know, I still, like, we spent so much time there. You know, I had more than half of my adult life was spent there, you know, 26 years.
Yeah, it was my
So-
dream to be on there, man. I mean, I had told one of my friends that I was going to be on K-Rock when I was in high school, and we were walking home, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, bro. You ain't going to be on K-Rock, bro. Shut up." And then when I got on, as I was answering phone calls, I was like, "What's K-Rock? Who's this?" And he's like, "Hey, bro, it's fucking Chito, bro. You're fucking on K-Rock, bro. Holy shit!" And I was like, "Yo, dog, I told you, bro." You know what I mean? I
love it.
And it's just crazy. Like, I didn't, like you mentioned.
Stars aligned.
No, like you mentioned earlier, like when you're in it, you don't really realize what's really going on. You know?
You
And I-
can't.
no.
It doesn't matter if you're digging ditches, street, you know, sweeping streets, or you're on the radio. You just are doing your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not until like it's very rare when you can be somewhere and have that epiphany, like, oh my God, like I've done something. You
Well,
know, I've
I'm gonna tell you
contributed.
where
I've
mine
like
became.
I felt like what I felt we were doing was contributing to like LA culture, you know, and music culture and stuff like that. I didn't go like, oh, Lightning's doing some stuff. Was never about me.
Well, here's two
It was
things.
never
like,
about
I'm
me.
gonna
It was
tell you
always
two
like what we
things.
were doing as a radio station and
Yeah.
as a morning show and pushing the edge.
Two things. One,
the
when I
envelope.
first started there and I was doing my first signing, it was the calendar signing, and this kid goes, "Hey, can I get your autograph?" Super Steve was like, "Ah, man, you don't want my autograph, bro." And you were right there. You're like, "Steve, this guy wakes up to you every day. He doesn't see you like we see you. He sees you totally different. You need to give this kid an autograph because he listens to you every single day, and it's a totally different relationship that he has with you." And I was like, "Fuck, I didn't see it that way." You know what I mean? And so
Well, you were being self-deprecating. You're like, I'm just a dude.
No,
You know what
no,
I mean?
for
I'm-
sure,
I'm
100%.
a dude from Buena Park. Like, why? I don't deserve your attention. You were feeling that way,
yeah,
right?
no, for sure.
And
But
I
you-
felt like that a lot. Like, I don't deserve your attention. Like, I'm just doing a job. And it just happens to be, that's what you always hear stars, people on TV like, I'm just doing a job. They literally just are doing a job. And some of them shouldn't be famous. They should just be actors and not famous, right?
Or on the radio and not famous.
Or on the radio and not famous, yeah.
But you did say that, and that to me was like, fuck, man. And that helped me out to feel more comfortable in the position that I was in. And then the next time I really felt it and really realized what had gone on in my life was here on this podcast. I was talking to Johnny. It was one of our first podcasts, and I'm like, because Johnny's doing stand-up, and I'm like, hey, bro, you're doing the hardest thing in the fucking world. What gives you that like sort of like momentum to keep moving, keep doing it, keep pushing? He goes, I know someone that did the impossible. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you, bro. You did the impossible, so therefore I know it's possible. And I was like, fuck. And I sat back.
Do you have that drop that goes, oh?
Well, now we will. That recording. But it was so crazy because that's when I really sat down. I was like, fuck, dude. I lived my dream, man. I really did. And thanks to you.
Well, you're still living your dream, dude.
No,
this
still,
is a rad
we're
show.
still. Yeah, no.
By the way, slow clap for this studio and you guys right here.
Thank you, man. Thank you. But it all comes back around, and what I'm trying to get at is I thank you for taking a chance, seeing me, and just really thinking like, fuck it, we can make something out of this guy. Yeah. I appreciate it because you helped my dream to come true.
Hell yeah. That's what we do here, right?
Hell yeah.
That's what goes on here.
And this is part of the dream still, and this is because of you as well still.
Yeah.
So everything that happened from that moment till the day I die, you're intertwined into that.
That's right.
So thank you very much.
I appreciate
that.
Yeah.
And it's the West Coast Pop Lock Podcast, the #1 live podcast
on Earth.
You're not supposed to bang on the table. You can hear that. Yeah. You're so fired up right now.
Yeah, no, it is, man. I can feel that energy and Lightning. Thank you for coming out, my man.
Yeah. If you need
shit.
truck parts or truck accessories, I got you covered
Hell
down.
Yeah, man. But we're gonna have to do a part 2.
I'm about to say, I'm like, we're done already? It's only been an hour and a
we're
half.
good,
I can
we're
keep
good.
going.
Are you serious? Have we gone an hour
yeah,
and a
It's
half?
an hour and a
Yeah.
half, yeah.
When did we lose everyone?
The people are still on.
They're still here.
People are still hanging out with us. Shout
They're
out
still
to
hanging out with us today and on
Yeah.
every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, the local music experience, 8 a.m., 4 p.m. Download that free app. It's a bunch of cool shit, plus us. So,
Yeah, man.
So there's that.
yeah.
And we got some cool stuff coming up too. Pretty soon, we're gonna be doing, I think, a live April 23rd at Border X Brewery in Bell.
There it is.
There you
What?
go.
Where? What? What are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing a live at Border X in
Bell.
Border X Brewery in Bell.
Okay,
We'll do
well,
a
that's a
show.
lot of bees.
Yeah,
That's a lot
that's
of bees.
I'm gonna
That's
fuck
a-
that up.
Yeah,
now.
with me
That's a tongue
grito,
twister.
So
you guys do this thing live, like in front of an audience?
we're gonna do
Yeah.
it live that day. We've done it another
We have
live too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one.
That's some pressure.
Nah, I mean, we have
Yeah?
fun.
That's a
man.
Mario right there.
Yeah, exactly. Also, tomorrow night, if anybody's around Hawthorne at Flights in Hawthorne, I'll be doing stand-up tomorrow. What's the date tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the 5th.
Tuesday the 5th. If anybody's watching.
What time?
Show starts at 9:15.
9:15.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting time to start. That's very specific. 9:15.
9:15.
9:15 in 30
Looks like
seconds.
they do like a hard 9:15 as opposed to a soft 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Tell everybody at 9 and doesn't start till 9:15. It's like, no, we start at 9:15. So.
Yeah, man. So I'm telling you, Light, thank you very much for
thanks for
making
having
this
me.
kid's dream come true, my man.
Yeah.
And we will definitely have you back in. Lightning,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Jake Tillers, thank you very much. It's the West Coast Pop Lock Podcast coming to you live every Tuesday. Today's a Monday.
Plus Monday
Hell
sometimes.
yeah. The #1 live show in the world, West Coast Pop Lock Podcast. Coming to you from Big Studios in Compton, California. Featuring radio personality Super Steve Flores. Comedian extraordinaire, that dude Johnny C. And Mr. I'll Do Anything for a Buck, Mario 81. So throw your dubs in the air and let's get ready to pop lock.